welcome to the world premiere of the new film by Taika Waititi, Jojo Rabbit. You lucky, lucky people. My name is Cameron Bailey. I'm the artistic director and the co-head of TIFF. I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. It is great to see so many of you here. It's a very exciting night for us. We always like to begin by just acknowledging where we are. We are on the treaty territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Huron-Wendat First Nation. People have been living on the land that we're on right now for 15,000 years, and we are grateful for the people who have taken care of this land, and we're grateful for the opportunity of sharing this land. Very pleased to present this film in the Visa screening room at the Princess of Wales Theatre. Big thanks to Visa Canada for making that possible. And thanks also to Fox Searchlight for bringing us this film. Fox Searchlight is celebrating its 25th anniversary this year, and we've been proud to present many of their films at the festival. You will know films like Juno and Slumdog Millionaire and 12 Years a Slave, which was presented on this very stage in 2013. So congratulations to them on 25 years. A reminder, we have a prize here. It's called the Grolsch People's Choice Award. It's voted on by you, but it only happens if you vote, so do not forget to vote. You can do that by going online to tiff.net/vote. I have a son who's 10 years old, and I hooked him with Thor Ragnarok. And then I told him the same person who made Thor Ragnarok made Hunt for the Wilderpeople, so he watched that. And he made Boy, and he watched that. We're gonna wait a while to watch What We Do in the Shadows together. But he will see Jojo Rabbit as soon as there's a screening that's not past his bedtime. Because I think everybody needs to see this film. We were so moved when we saw this film. We laughed, we were shocked, we laughed again, and then we left just ready to talk about it. And it was one of those movies that I think I will carry with me forever, and I can't wait to share it with more people. And I'm very glad that you are the very first people in the world to see Jojo Rabbit. Taika's here to introduce it to you. Please join me in welcoming Taika Waititi.
Hello, kia ora everyone. Thanks so much. Thank you for coming to this film. It's finished, so can't take any notes. It's too bad. It's done. You should have been there in the editing suite with me. Oh, hello up there too, you people. Well, what can I say other than really I don't want to say too much because I think the film, I know there's a sort of thing that auteurs say about their films. The film speaks for itself. Oh, yeah, no. Well, if you don't get it, then you're dumb. Well, you'll get it. It's pretty simple. And, yeah, it does speak for itself. And it's a very... What? This is going terribly. Should we start this thing again, Cameron? I don't think this is the right audience for this. Right, I'm going to bring out some people. I know them, I just have to. I wanted to thank and acknowledge some people. Interesting. My mum. Okay. Well, she was a big part of that, I guess. Christine, what are you guys doing? I'm trying to read here. Okay, let's get through this, guys. Come on, we're already late. Okay, here we go. My mum, I love you. Christine Loylands, who wrote the book, Then also, we've got a couple of crew members here in the audience. Mihai Malimar, who's the cinematographer. Where are you? Way, yes, there. Jason Chen, VFX. And Ra Vincent, production designer. Okay, I'm also going to bring out onto the stage now two producers, Carthew Neal and Chelsea Winstanley. And then the actors, the thespians that you've all come here to see. We'll start with Alfie Allen, Stephen Merchant, Thomason Mackenzie, Roman Griffin Davis, Sam Rockwell, and Scarlett Johansson. I just what? You know. Thanks, sister. This is the right audience. You're right. You're right, Carthew. Okay, well, we should just go away. You're not going to do that, are you, through the movie? Everyone needs to shut up during the movie. That's a rule I have. Okay, before we go, I just also want to also thank Fox Searchlight, who literally were the only people who wanted to make this. They're that crazy. They're incredible to work with, and I had such an amazing time with them. I also want to thank Cameron and TIFF for having this film here. It's a big deal. It's my first time accompanying one of my films here, so it's really cool. And that's it. Watch the film. It's see ya. Oh, we're going to be back afterwards, yeah? Yeah. Okay, we're going to be back afterwards because one of those really, those enthralling 11 p.m. Q&As that everyone loves so much.
Please join me in welcoming the team from Jojo Rabbit: Roman Griffin Davis, Alfie Allen, Stephen Merchant, Thomason Mackenzie, Scarlett Johansson, producers Carthew Neal and Chelsea Winstanley, and the writer and director of Jojo Rabbit, Taika Waititi. Also Sam Rockwell. Did I miss anybody? We have a few minutes to talk a little bit about the film up here. Taika, I want to start with you, and it's such an original vision. I just have to ask, where did the story of Jojo Rabbit come from for you?
Okay, well, real talk. My mum read this book by Christine Loynes, and it's called Caging Skies. And she was explaining the book to me. She said, I'm reading this book, it's such a great concept about this boy, and he's in the youth, and he finds out his mother's hiding this girl in his attic, and changes his whole worldview, and also, and the way she described it I was like, wow, this is going to be an incredible, what a great film idea. And then and I've read the book, and the book is incredible. It's a very good book, but it wasn't exactly like how my mum described it. And so when I started writing it, started sort of tapping more into the way that she sort of explained this book, which was kind of wrong, but I don't know if she actually read it. And then over the years it developed, and then this imaginary friend character came into the story as well, and a lot more of the humor, but essentially the core of that story about a young boy who has been indoctrinated, has to learn to understand and befriend this. But basically, the idea was kind of like having a monster in the attic, but it's just a human. So that's kind of what the angle was.
There are sometimes unwritten rules about what you can and can't show in movies and what you can and can't have be funny in movies as well, and you seem to be free to break those rules, which is why we love you.
Sorry.
Was there ever any fear, any concern about just what the line was in terms of telling the story and what you could show on screen?
Yeah, a little bit. That character for me, basically the film is more of a love letter to mothers, and especially solo mothers. I grew up with a single mum, and so I didn't realize until I had my own children that she would have done anything for me, and she did, and that's why Scarlett's character is for me one of the most important elements in the entire film, and probably the only grounded character and the only one who actually lives in reality, even though she's a clown, but she's trying to save her kid. So for me, growing up, I'd always often fantasize about father figures and wanting that kind of presence in my life, and I think it's no different for a boy growing up with a solo mother in Nazi Germany. It's like, I want a dad, and also my idol is this buffoon, so I'm going to mix the two, and that's sort of where that came from.
I want to ask the actors about finding the right tone for the film, because obviously getting the right tone between that wild satire, that farcical element, and the real heart, the emotion of the film that comes in a bit later on is really important, and you have to have the right tone in each scene. Sometimes they're played fully for comedy, sometimes for real drama. How, can I ask all of you, maybe starting with you, Scarlett, how did you find the right tone for your particular character?
I don't know. I mean, I guess, life is kind of, it's meant all different things at one time. I think there can be a lot of, there's a bittersweetness, I think, to the character, and she's really full of life, I think. That was something that Taika and I talked a lot about, how she just is absolutely in the middle of her life, and so you really miss her when she's gone. And I think she is, like Taika said, she's a clown, and she's sometimes kind of a sad clown, and sometimes she's just clowning around with her kid just to bring levity into a really dire situation. And again, I think there's I didn't necessarily think about a specific tone because she's so colorful. I think it was many different tones, I guess, at once.
Let me ask the other grown-up actors first, then we'll come back to you because I have some special questions for you guys.
Grown-up only answers.
The answers don't have to be grown-up. Sam, and just in terms of the tone, and you've played kind of wild, farcical satire before, but there's your character has a lot of different shades to him as well.
Yeah, I just thought that I talked to Taika and thought if Bill Murray was a disillusioned Nazi, that's how I was going to play it. So it's basically, and I think Taika liked that idea.
Yeah, I did, and sadly he was unavailable.
Exactly.
That makes sense. See?
Well, I don't think it's going to come as a shock to anyone that I obviously had watched Raiders of the Lost Ark just before. Before I watched this, before I made this film, and the great Ronald Lacey performance as the Nazi Gestapo officer in that. And I think but seriously, what struck me about that, even as a kid watching Raiders of the Lost Ark, was that he could seem comic. You know, if you remember, he grabs that medallion and his hand burns, and he kind of, and then he kind of puts his hand in the snow, and we're like chortling. But later, he's very scary, and he's very villainous and genuinely terrifying. And so that, to me, seemed like a great kind of guide, you know, that you can be kind of comic, but that every so often you just turn on that chill factor, and that hopefully that came across. Sorry. You got one, sorry.
Yes, what was the question? Sorry, apologies.
It's really about tone originally. It can go anywhere from this
Yeah,
point
well, I
forward.
mean, my character kind of, definitely was definitely a kind of more comedic part of the piece, and which I thoroughly enjoyed. But just by what Taika was saying, I think that's definitely what the film is kind of about, and something that kind of hadn't really become obvious to me, that it's about the Roman's relationship with his mother, and I was kind of thinking about more the other side of it, and his father not really being there. But my mum's out in the audience tonight, and I just want to say, I love you, Mum.
All right, now I have questions for you too, because you really are the heart of the movie, and you could feel it. I think what the audience feels is what you guys are going through in the movie. And these are big roles for you, so can you talk a little bit about what it was like to play this role, and how did Taika, was he helpful to you at all?
You be very careful right now.
What was it like to play the role?
Nerve-wracking. Really, really nerve-wracking. It's quite scary because he's quite a fragile character, and it's quite hard to get him wrong. But he's an interesting character because it's a side of the war that it's a dark and quite mysterious and creepy side of the war. And I don't know, I'm going anywhere with this, I don't know.
It's all right, honest, I like that. But it was nerve-wracking, you said.
Yeah, he's a traumatized character and he's fragile. And I'm just going to describe it now.
And what about your character as well? I mean, she's going through some very horrifying parts of her life for a young girl.
I just want to quickly apologise that I've lost my voice from all the excitement, so I sound very husky. But I think same as Roman, it was very nerve-wracking taking on this role, and I wanted first and foremost to approach it with a lot of sensitivity and to go into it with having put as much research and thought into it as possible. However, the first time I actually met Taika in person and sat down with him, he was like, forget all that, watch The Heathers and Mean Girls.
Yeah, I wasn't one here to be
I
like,
did.
I'm sitting in the attic, and
But,
it's like, I thought she would have had a life at high school. She was cool, and now she is to.
The point of it was Elsa's, she had a life before this disgusting tragedy happened to her, and I think it was important to show, present her as a figure of hope and show that she's a strong, brave, and really staunch girl. And I think that was for me the most important part.
Thank you. And lastly, Taika, I want to ask you, I don't know if everyone's noticed, but the problem of learned hate has not exactly gone away since the Second World War. What does Jojo Rabbit have to say to that problem now?
Well, I think in 1933, when Hitler got into power, little by little, every single day or every week, there was just one small change and one thing that people said, that's wrong, but it wasn't big enough to really get everyone up in arms, and it wasn't big enough until it became too late. And I feel like today that's happening. It's what small little things here. Oh, but this, they get to say what they want. It's only like 10 people over there that said that. It's only like 200 people at this little march thing. But the more you ignore it, and the more you think we're at the height of human civilization and advancement, it could never happen again, which is exactly what they said in 1933. Nothing can be as bad as the First World War. It's that ignorance and the arrogance to forget and allow ourselves to forget is really what is basically is a big human flaw. So I think it's very important to keep telling these stories again and again. They didn't say, let's never forget, just as a joke. So we have to keep remembering and keep finding new and inventive ways of telling the same story and teaching ourselves and our children lessons for how to grow and how to move forward, unified and with love into the future.
Thank you. We're going to have to leave it there. So I just want to ask you to please join me in thanking Taika Waititi, the cast and producers of Jojo Rabbit.
Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much. Thank you to you guys too. Thank you, Cameron.
I know, I'm still standing alive.
Good night. Thank you.